Good morning, everybody. Welcome back to another installment of Scott's Selections here on Friday, May 17th with StatSalt.com. Just a couple of quick announcements here. If you didn't already notice the three plays of the day, just to recap, actually, I'm filling in for Scott Steen again on Winners and Whiners with the Deep Three. So if you want my personal selections for three plays, those are all uploaded on the Winners and Whiners page as I filled in, as Scott Steen is currently at his son's graduation for the weekend. Congratulations to the two of them once again. But either or, needless to say, I will be covering all of the games here with my leans that I did not cover in the previous video. Yep, Jamal, that makes sense with the Raptors and the over. I'm actually going to get into that game quickly, and I'll actually start there with the Raptors and the Milwaukee Bucks. Now, to dive into this game, I mentioned it briefly at the end of the Winners and Whiners video. Milwaukee opened up at -7, down to -6.5 in most spots. Total's been bet up from 214 to 216, and it's actually still at 215 right now on Bookmaker. So I'd actually recommend taking the over there and just bet as well, as there's value there. In terms of this game, there's two ways to look at it. On one hand, you can look at it and say Milwaukee somehow covered game one. Toronto played pretty much a perfect game for three quarters and still couldn't cover. So how are they supposed to cover this spread? On the other hand, you can look at the zigzag theory, and say that since Toronto didn't cover game one, they're more than likely to cover game two, etc. As basic as that sounds, it's actually been pretty profitable over the course of pretty much betting history, as people always talk about the zigzag theory. In terms of this game, my main lean, I do think Milwaukee will cover, but my main lean on the game is actually going to be on the over between Milwaukee and Toronto. Toronto was at its most successful, when it was able to push the pace, and they were really solid in the beginning of the shot clock. And the issue that they ran into late in the game is that nobody besides Lowry could hit a shot, as besides Kyle Lowry, the entire Toronto Raptors team went 0 for 15 from the floor in the fourth quarter, which is absolutely pathetic. But either way, Toronto loved to push the pace. They were doing it the entire game, and it got them to a huge lead at halftime and then roughly a 7-point lead at the end of the third quarter. Yep, Jamal was nuts. I mean, the fact that the entire team, besides Kyle Lowry of all people, ended up going 0 for 15 in the fourth is definitely a bad sign. But overall, the question you have to ask yourself is, does Lowry have another game like that in him? I don't know. He's been known to be a playoff choker, but he was absolutely phenomenal in game one, and I would expect him to play pretty well in game two. Milwaukee, though, they were ice cold from the three-point line for the majority of the game before finally catching fire in the fourth quarter. For me, my main lean on this game will actually be on the over, and it's currently, as I said before, it has been bet up from 214 to roughly 216. Both these teams have seen each other before. They know what they're going to do defensively. Giannis looked a little bit lost out there as Toronto tried to deploy a type of wall defense where they tried to line up three guys at the same time to try to block Giannis from entering the paint. I think Budenholzer will make some adjustments. I expect Brogdon to play more minutes, as he was fantastic. Bledsoe wasn't great. I expect him to play a little bit better. Middleton was terrible. I expect him to play a lot better as well. I think Milwaukee will score around 120 points in this game, if not a little bit less, like 115. So I personally think this game will go over the total. So that's my main lean on that one. I will also lean to Milwaukee, as I think that Toronto had a great chance of stealing game one, and then Milwaukee woke up finally in the fourth and were able to take care of business. I just think Milwaukee has too much offensive firepower, and I think Milwaukee will be too much to handle. But my main lean on this game will be the over, as I expect Toronto to continue to try to push the pace, as that was where its offense was at its best point in game one. So I'd look to see Toronto and Milwaukee play an extremely fast-paced style of play, and I expect this game to go over the total relatively easily. Now, moving on to the MLB games. In terms of the actual games that I've already picked, I'm actually going to skip those because I've already covered them on the Winners and Whiners video, so I recommend you checking that one out. But I will go over my leans for the rest of the baseball card. I'll start out with the Rays and the Yankees. No lines have been out yet, but you have Sabathia versus Stanek, which means the Rays are going to be using another opener. I'm leaning to the Yankees here. I think Sabathia's actually pitched pretty well this season. Yankees are rolling. Rays just swept the Marlins, but their offense has not looked great in the last couple of games. Sabathia's been pretty good against the Rays historically, and I simply like the way that the Yankees have been playing at home in particular, so I will be leaning to the Yankees there. Moving on between the Phillies and the Rockies, I don't really have any thoughts on this game whatsoever, but I'm a little bit biased because I bet on Gray in his last start against the Padres and lost, so I will lean to the Phillies in that one. I'm personally going to skip it. I think that game's a toss-up. Moving on, the Nationals opened up at a minus 125 favorite up to minus 150. And a lot of that to do with the fact that the Cubs game against the Reds yesterday ended up going to a rain delay. So the Cubs had to delay, they had to wait around the Reds ballpark, finish the game in which they lost, and then fly back later than originally anticipated. So people are concerned about the traveling time for the Cubs as they have less recovery time than they were supposed to get. But it's still Hamels versus Scherzer. In terms of this game, I still lean to the Cubs, and I would lean to the second half over here, as both bullpens have not been great this season. Hamels is still a great pitcher. Scherzer is great, but do I think the Nationals at any point should be a minus 145 plus favorite? No, so I would lean to the Cubs there, as I think there's value on it. Oakland and Detroit, I covered that in the Winners and Whiners video as one of the plays of the day. Moving on, the Mets and the Marlins, I lean to the Mets minus 1.5. Richards is pretty good. DeGrom's great. And the Marlins simply can't score. And the Mets offense looked pretty good lately. They did lose 7-6 yesterday, but they still scored 6 runs as they almost came from behind to win. But it is worth mentioning Michael Conforto will be out with a concussion indefinitely, but I still like the Mets with Alonso. I think they'll score a couple of runs, and I expect DeGrom to shut down the Marlins relatively easily. I would lean to the Marlins' first 5 team total under and the full game under for the Marlins. I think the Mets will shut down the Marlins offense relatively easily. Moving on, matchup between the Orioles and the Indians, I lean to the over 9 here. You have Rodriguez and Bundy. We saw what happened yesterday. Orioles gave up 14 runs. I recommended the Indians on that one and the over as well. Bauer was on the mound. Value wasn't there. I recommended the Indians team total. They ended up scoring 14 runs. Baltimore just simply isn't good, and I think everybody knows that they aren't very good, but we shall see. I think it depends. But I don't like Baltimore's bullpen. I don't like their starting pitching. I don't like Cleveland's bullpen either. And both teams have decent lineups, so I lean to the over there. Yeah, Jamal, for me, for the Blues puck line, I personally got the Sharks as one of the plays for the Deep 3 on the Winners and Whiners video, mostly because of the value. I just don't think the Sharks should be a plus 128 favorite. I think they should be around plus 110 instead, as these teams have been relatively even so far. Really depends on how you view it. But that was also one of the plays that I had for the Deep 3. Moving on, you have the Dodgers and the Reds, which is actually the final play of the Deep 3, so I will be skipping that as well. Moving on, you have the Astros and the Red Sox. Really tough game to handicap here, as both teams have been rolling, but I have to go with the Astros here, and I have to go with the Astros money line at minus 133. Red Sox did win in walk-off fashion against the Rockies. Their bullpen has blown a series of leads recently, and Houston has been on fire. This team's offense has been absolutely sick lately. I know they played the Tigers, but this team's rolling, and I don't want to get in their way. And Porcello has definitely not looked as sharp as he has been in recent years, so I will lean to the Astros on that one. Moving on, you have Milwaukee and Atlanta. I would lean to the over 9.5. It was at 9, bet up to 9.5. Weather is a huge factor there, as it's beautiful conditions there in Atlanta, and it should be very solid. Atlanta, if you followed my lean yesterday, ended up cashing as that team's offense is finally starting to wake up, but Milwaukee is no team to slouch at either. They won easily against the Phillies yesterday, and Yelich hit 2 more home runs, as he has still looked like Babe Ruth over the last year and about a quarter. But either or, I would lean to the over there, as I think both offenses should be able to get stuff done against Fried and Chacin. I'd lean there. Cardinals and the Rangers, the line is not out yet, but you have Leclerc versus Mikolas. I lean to the over there, whatever that line is. I would have picked it as one of the Deep 3 plays, but there isn't no line to pick. But I simply think that the Rangers, who scored, I believe it was 16 runs yesterday against the Royals, and the Cardinals still have a great lineup, and it's in Texas. I lean to the over there. I expect that game to generate at least 12 runs. I'll go with the over on that one. Moving on, you have Toronto and the White Sox. White Sox did win a nice victory yesterday after scoring a couple runs in the 8th inning. You have Sanchez versus Nova. Nova's been terrible lately. Sanchez has been pretty solid. Do I have any real leans in this game? No. I'm going to lean to the under because the weather's not great, so that'll be my lean. It's already been bet down from 9.5 to 9, so I would lean to the under in that game. Moving on, you have the Diamondbacks versus the Giants. I'd have to lean to the Diamondbacks here. It's Samardzija versus Kelly. I don't really care who's on the mound. The Giants are terrible. They can't hit. Diamondbacks have been very solid, particularly at home, and Kelly has been pretty good this season. So Samardzija, props to him for bouncing back, but I simply don't trust the Giants lineup to score anything, so I would personally lean to the Diamondbacks there. Moving on, you have the Royals and the Angels. It was a very close play for the deep three, but I decided not. It did not make the final cut. I was leaning towards the over 9.5, as it has been bet up from 9 to 9.5 in pretty much every spot. And I would lean to the Angels as well. Harvey's been awful this season, as he's 1-3. Keller hasn't been much better, 2-4 with a +4 ERA. So for me, Angels have been pretty solid offensively lately with Ohtani back in the lineup along with Trout. And I simply don't like the way the Royals have been playing recently after losing 16-1 yesterday at home on Homer Bailey Day to the Rangers. So I will lean to the Angels and the over on that one. Moving on, you have the Twins and the Mariners. Was at 9, down to 8.5. Twins were favored -120, down to -114 or -117 in most spots. I lean to the Twins there, and I lean to the over. The game last night ended up going pretty late as Pineda and Swanson both struggled, and I actually recommended the over on that one as well, and that one cashed very easily. Twins have been fantastic this season. They're the favorites to win the division right now in the AL Central, as the Indians have not looked the same, especially with the injuries they've been dealing with, whether it was to Lindor for a little while or to Kluber, who's still out with a broken arm. Either or, the Twins offense has been great. Seattle's still the #1 over team in all of baseball. I lean to the over there. And last game, you have the Padres and the Pirates, and that money's come in on the Padres up from -140 to -151 or -155 in most spots. And the total has been bet from 7 to 7.5. I would lean to the over, and I would lean to the Padres, but those are just very small leans. I don't see much value on that particular matchup. Now, there is a hockey matchup between the Sharks and the Blues, and I've already kind of spoiled one of my picks for the deep three, but I do like the Sharks on the money line here. We were right about the Bruins closing out their sweep last night as they broke out the Brooms. We just didn't think Carolina should have been that big of we just thought the lines didn't make much sense. Bruins should have been favored by more, and Carolina simply failed to show up. So, Paul, for the play of the day, there is no play of the day because the 3 plays that I have are all on the Winners and Whiners video. So the Winners and Whiners video will have the 3 main plays that I have for tomorrow, and this will simply just be the leans that I have on the rest of the card. But as you've seen on my tennis video, I do have a play on that. So if you have not checked that out yet on StatSolid with the YouTube channel, then you should look into that one. But for hockey, I lean to the Sharks simply because I don't think the Blues should be a -140 favorite, give or take, after this series has been very close throughout. I think St. Louis will fold after what happened with the referees and the controversial play. They could come out with a spark. I don't see it. I think St. Louis will fall behind 3-1. But in terms of this game, I have to lean to the over, as both goalies have struggled so far this series with Jones and Bennington. And San Jose's offense has looked great. I know St. Louis has finally scored a power play goal. I believe they are 1 for 27 in the playoffs. Congratulations. They finally scored. I don't trust this team's power play. And I think that San Jose, Carlson finally scored. He scored twice. I think San Jose will keep rolling. I like the over here, especially with some empty netters. Yeah, Omar, good luck to you too with your bets. And other than that, I will lean to the over in the St. Louis and San Jose game. But the plays of the day will be on the Winners and Whiners page, and I will be doing those videos until the following Monday, as Scott Stienz said before, is away on his son's graduation. So that's going to do it for this installment of Scott's Selections here on Friday, May 17th with StatSalt.com. It's also worth mentioning before I forget, and I mentioned in Winners and Whiners video, that PointsBet is now our sponsor, and they are an online sportsbook from New Jersey. A lot of great deals, a lot of risk. They have 2 risk-free bets for up to $1,000. Also have some NBA playoff deals where if your money line bet, your team is winning after 3 quarters, you win. And in hockey, if the team you bet on is up by 2 goals at any point, you win. So something to keep in mind. I will post the links to those in the description below, along with some promo codes. So as far as I know, it's only for New Jersey people, but either or, you might, if you are in New Jersey, I definitely recommend looking into it. But that's going to do it for this installment of Scott's Selection. Good luck to all of you and your respective bets on this Friday. Bye, everyone.